Welcome to Machine Tool Maniacs, the podcast where machining, fabrication, entrepreneurship, and bringing ideas to life collide. Around here, every story is a success story. I'm Matt, a second-generation manufacturer who's been in the shop since I was in diapers, learning the tools, the trade, and the people behind it all. Nearly everything in our daily lives is passed through a CNC machine. And we're here to spotlight the makers turning raw material into reality. Whether you're dreaming big or building bigger, this is your inside track to making it happen. Welcome back for part 2 of this episode of Machine Talk, CNC Controls with Will Mund. Let's get back to the episode. So picking back up, let's go ahead and move on into the Mazak MAZATROL.
Oh,
And I don't really have much to say. The only thing I have to say about MAZATROLs is if you run into somebody who likes MAZATROL, they never stop reminding you that they like MAZATROL.
Yep. They are, I will tell you, I haven't messed too much with MAZATROL. The couple of times I looked at it and was shown how to use it a little bit in the first shop I worked in, it confused the hell out of me.
Really?
Oh yeah. MAZATROL. I'm like, I don't know. I don't get this. I felt kind of like Mongo from Blazing Saddles. Mongo don't know, that kind of thing. But every person that I've ever met that has run a Mazak machine and run the MAZATROL, I won't say everyone, but I would say 98% of them, they love MAZATROL.
They are diehard.
For sure. They are absolute. I would dare call them a fanatic.
Yeah.
Like they are hardcore, love it, and would run that over anything else.
I've made jokes about the orange Kool-Aid.
Yes, they have definitely drunk the orange Kool-Aid.
Now, I've heard those are Mitsubishi on the back end. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. So Mazak is all built on Mitsubishi. I only know if I've only ever seen a Fanuc control on 2 Mazaks ever. And I forget what the reason was. I asked a Mazak service guy once, and he's like, for the specific configuration and for what it does, the Fanuc control performs better than the Mitsubishi in this one specific instance. Other than that, it's Mitsubishi and Mazak are hand in hand, hand in glove even with it. So you've got all the Mitsubishi hardware on the backside, servo drive, servo motor, even the NC unit is Mitsubishi. And then Mazak software is built on top of that hardware. And it's pretty good. Like, yeah, they've got their quirks and some things. I've worked on Mazaks both as a machinist and doing service, and it's a little different, but man, Mazak builds a solid machine and their software is pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, just another Japanese machine tool builder. So
yep, this is my shocked face that it's a well-designed piece of equipment.
Yeah, I don't think anything made in Japan is really bad.
No. Some of the American-made ones, I know some people that have some horror stories about some of the American-made Mazaks, but really they're kind of an exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Then they're made in Kentucky, right?
Yep. Mazak has a production facility in Kentucky. I think they build some 5-axis machines there. They build almost all of the 3-axis machines. And I think they build everything up into the single turret subspindle Y-axis lathes in Kentucky for the U.S. market. Once you start getting into like the Integrexes and like the high performance vari-axis pallet changing 5-axis machines and stuff, I think those are still built in Japan. And then when you get it,
I think the Integrex is probably one of the best. And I don't know this from experience. I just anybody who runs one side by side with another make of turn mill. I think the Integrex is probably towards the top when it comes to mill turns or turn mill applications. They're just anybody who runs them just loves them, and they've been around for a long time.
I was about to say the same thing. I would venture to guess that part of why they are the best one is because they've been at it the longest. Like you have the Okuma Multises and you have the Mori NT machines, but Mazak's been doing the Integrex since I think the late 80s or early 90s.
I've seen some old ones.
Like I have seen some old ass Integrexes, like almost as old as I am when it comes to, and not that I'm that old, but in the machine tool world, a 35 or 40-year-old machine is ancient.
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to technology.
Exactly. But yeah, they've been in that game for a long time, and I've been impressed with them. Like even today, I watch what they do with an Integrex, and it's just like, man, that is a awesome machine.
Yeah, they're pretty spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
So you got any other points on MAZATROL before we move on?
I don't know enough about the MAZATROL to be able to speak on it, but I can tell you about Herco conversational.
Well,
if you want to,
Herco's
if you want to
coming up
broach
down
that
the
subject.
list. We can talk about it.
So what's next on your list, my friend?
We got OSP, Okuma.
That's definitely your specialty. You've spent some time on
my alma
Okuma
mater.
stuff.
So
I've had a little experience on them too. So
one thing that's worth noting for anybody who might be listening is, when we talk about control builders, right? When we say Fanuc, and with the exception of the robo drill, but most of the time it's a Morisiki, and it has a Fanuc control and Fanuc servos and Fanuc drives. Okuma has always kind of marched to their own drumbeat. So Okuma builds their own control. Okuma builds their own servos, their own drives, their own ball screws. So everything is Okuma from top to bottom.
Yep. That's one of the things I actually have really admired about Okuma, even to the point where they have built their own machines for making ball screws. They make their own grinders for doing ball screws, which is wild.
Yeah, and they're not perfect.
No.
But it makes...
Nobody is. No company is.
It makes their communication and their processes, in my mind, more seamless.
Yes.
Right? Because everything is designed with the exact same end player in mind. And, it's not just a generic control that's pasted onto a platform.
You don't run into the problem of having a problem and then you go to the machine builder, like say Morisiki, and Mori goes, oh no, that's a Fanuc problem. And then you go to Fanuc and talk to them, and Fanuc's like, no, that's a Mori problem. You need to talk to them. It's, in this case with Okuma, it's an Okuma problem.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they got to own it from top to bottom.
Yep.
Sometimes they might resist, but I will say Okuma controls, as far as their 5-axis technology, do leave a little to be desired compared to Fanuc and Siemens control machines. If you're doing a lot of really intense surfacing and swarf milling, they kind of start bumping up against some issues. I just don't know if their kinematics are quite as good as what you can get on a Siemens machine.
So do you think that's more a mechanical thing, or do you think that's like a mechanical design thing, or do you think that's more control based?
I think it's control based.
Okay.
I don't know how. I don't really know what the limitation is, but we have run into customers, when I was working with them quite a bit. We run into customers who just didn't feel like the stitching and some of the blending and the surfacing that you got on Okuma was as good as what they were getting on Matsuura.
Well, and Matsuura, I got to give them full faith and credit here, is that in the last, I don't know, I'd say the last 15, maybe 20 years, they have really invested heavily into the 5-axis realm of things, to where they fine tune they fine tune their 5-axis machines to be really just top notch equipment that way. And I'm not saying that Okuma doesn't. I just think Matsura maybe has dumped more money into that. But Matsura is also a little bit more of a niche builder, kind of a boutique builder.
Yeah, they just build mills pretty much.
Yeah, they don't do any turning centers. They are strictly a mill company, and they've really dedicated a lot of time and effort to their 5-axis mills. And when I say boutique, I'm talking I forget where I heard this number. It was just recently. Forgive me if it's wrong, but I heard that Matsura only builds somewhere in the range of like 600 to 800 machines a year.
Wow.
And I figured it up, and if they're doing a 5-day workday, it's basically they're cranking out between 10 and 15 machines a day tops every year. Whereas we'll use Haas as an example. I know at Haas's peak back in like say 2019, they were cranking out somewhere in the range of between 1,100 and 1,400 machines a month.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just spitting those things out. And so, by volume, I know DMG Mori is like by volume of machines, and under all the different brands and types of machines that DMG Mori has, they are the largest machine tool builder in the world in terms of volume of machines.
Yeah, I believe
Mazak, and Mazak is right behind them in terms of volume. FFG, I think, is third. Haas is like number 8 or 9.
Well, and you're talking builders that are building everything.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Lathes,
yeah. We're talking across the board.
Turns, right.
So it's not a fair comparison.
Yeah.
It's not really a fair comparison with Matsura versus these other companies, because Matsura is just a milling machine company, and they focus very much on a handful of types of machines. But they pull them off really, really well.
And not to disparage Okuma.
Oh, no, not in the least.
I think Okuma, if 90% of the work that people are doing out there, as far as 5-axis work, is just indexing, minimal full 5-axis simultaneous
3 plus
milling.
2, 4 plus 1.
It's mostly that kind of stuff. And Okumas are tanks.
They are.
They will just do that kind of work all day, every day.
Yes.
The amount of abuse that I've seen people give their Okumas and they just still run.
Yep.
It blows my mind. I've seen people that just never maintain them at all, and they just go and go and go and go. So
I will tell you, when I was selling machines, the Genos series, especially like, your standard Genos 560 3-axis vertical.
Yeah.
That machine sucks to compete against.
Yeah, it does.
And I say that, because the reason I say it sucks to compete against is because it's a double column machine. So it outweighs pretty much anything else that's in that same size class for a 40 by 20 machine. But because it's a double column, it is super rigid. It is super accurate without scales. I mean, it is a damn accurate machine.
Oh, yeah.
And then you throw the capabilities of the OSP control onto it, and it just performs well. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Hartwig here. The guys they have out here for service and applications are excellent. Like I've talked to a lot of Okuma customers out there in this area, and they're like, yeah, whenever we have a problem, we call up Hartwig, we talk to Manny in service, and he gets us taken care of really quick and really well. And I think that's a big part of it too, is the support and the service side.
Oh, that's for any, I think that's what makes or breaks any, not to get too far down another rabbit hole here, but that's what makes or breaks any machine tool brand. I think anything has a potential to provide somebody with a good experience, but if they can't get it fixed when it breaks, whatever opinions they have of it are going to go out the window.
Yep. Well, and I think that's a big thing, especially here in the Rocky Mountains, is because we only have a handful of machine dealers out here. And so getting anybody out here to try something new, to try a new brand of machine, is really going to be tough, because at that point in time, you're a totally unknown. Your service is unknown, your support is unknown, your machine is unknown, and we already know what we've got with these other companies.
Yeah.
So we're going to lean toward them.
Well, and when your business relies on your spindle's ability to keep running.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's why I named Greenlight Machinery Greenlight Machinery, is because the whole goal was to keep that green light on, because that's how you guys as customers make money.
That's a good name.
So anyway, sorry, we digress again.
Moving on. Let's go to Mitsubishi.
I love Mitsubishi controls.
Well, I know, we've already talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
The Mitsubishi controls that are on those Miyano lathes that are doing that superimposition.
Superimposition. It's insane.
Every time I see that, I'm just still blown away.
Yep. I love it because it took me a while to understand what was going on. But on a Miyano lathe using superimposition, you've got your turret is moving and it's cutting one thread pitch on the main spindle. Then you've got the sub spindle that can move in Z and in Y, and it's coming in and it's threading on the back side of the turret at a different pitch, and it's synchronizing all of that stuff. So at the end, you've got two parts, or in this case, one side of the part is threaded with one pitch. The back side of it is threaded with another pitch, and it's done at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it hurts my brain to think about how they built that into the control to make it do that.
I can't even really understand it. But in your mind, you look at it and you're like, I don't know why I don't see more of them when I go around, because it's basically a twin turret machine
with a single turret
and a single turret frame. And I'm sure they're substantially cheaper than a twin turret machine. So I don't know how I don't see them all over the place, to be honest.
Full honesty, when I worked for Monkton's / Productivity, they're the Haas dealer out here, right? And they are the Citizen Miyano dealer. And that's where I actually learned to love that Mitsubishi control, was working on Citizens. Because the Syncom control is built on top of Mitsubishi hardware, like how the MAZATROL software is built on the Citizen, built on the Mitsubishi control.
Yeah.
That's how the Citizen is too. And it's just awesome. It's a robust control. It's got great, high speed processing for your code on your machines and stuff. But then to be able to build, and this is where I'm not 100% clear, is if that superimposition is like a Mitsubishi control thing that Mitsubishi has developed, but then Citizen or Miyano has licensed it exclusively, or if that's technology that Citizen and Miyano have built and it's their own thing. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Do you happen to know if Tornos is using Mitsubishi now?
No. No, Tornos is still very much a Fanuc controlled machine.
Okay. Because I saw a video recently of a Tornos Swiss doing not the exact same thing, but it was milling a side hole. This was probably I think it was on a Titans, a CNC video clip, but it was milling a side hole on a Swiss. So because the Z axis is in the headstock, right? So the part's basically moving in and out. And then it was milling a flat at an angle on the end of the part simultaneously. So the end mill had to follow it, the Z, as it was moving in and out, because it was boring a hole in the side of it.
Really?
Yeah. So it was doing a similar function.
Interesting. Yeah, because to the best of my knowledge, Tornos is a Fanuc controlled machine and has been since the beginning of time, so to speak. Tornos has actually been a Swiss type turning center back when it was cam driven and whatnot. Like I've seen a couple of old cam driven Tornos. They're pretty sweet. Like they're cool. There's a shop over in Colorado.
Montrose.
Yeah. Oh, you
I've
know
been there.
exactly who I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
to.
Oh yeah.
Like those guys will rebuild those cam driven machines, but half the equipment they've got in there are cam driven Swiss, and they just crank them.
Yep.
And
They
it's
got a
like,
whole row of them going.
yep, yep. And then they've got some Citizens, they've got some Stars and a couple Tsugamis in there.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went in there and saw all of those old cam driven machines and they're still just cranking along making parts, it kind of made my cold dead heart, have a warm spot in it, because it's like, man, keeping that old iron going is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
But then that guy, that guy has some, I hate to use the word archaic, but he's got some archaic knowledge on our industry to be able to design and know how to build these cams and stuff to do what he needs them to do on the mechanical machines is nuts.
Yeah.
But
It's a
they
lost
can
art.
run. It is. And with the right parts, those old cam drivens can still push out parts faster than a CNC can, and they'll still hold tolerance and stuff. But it's pretty minimal on what parts they can do that'll perform faster.
Well, and I imagine the setup is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, that's not one that you're only doing 500 parts and then tearing down. That's like, okay, you're ordering 2 million parts. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, do you have any other insight about Mitsubishi controls? I know we've kind of sprinkled them in.
I know Mitsubishi, they're not as popular here in the US, but they're growing. I know like the Ganesh / Gen Turn machines, the newer machines, they're running Mitsubishi controls. But the big player right now that runs Mitsubishi controls is Kitamura.
Okay.
The aromatic control is built on Mitsubishi, and it's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to nerd out here for just a little bit, right?
Go ahead.
So putting a Mitsubishi head to head against a Fanuc, in almost all usable metrics, the Mitsubishi is better. And when I say that, I'm talking about block look ahead and block processing speed. So for like your high speed machining stuff for surfacing and whatnot, Mitsubishi, their highest option is like 8200 block look ahead, and it'll execute at like 2048 blocks a second is what it'll chew through.
Mm.
Then they have the technology. So I can't remember if they call it microfine or nanofine, or I forget what their uh, high their high accuracy machining is called, like for doing micro smoothing. So think for mold finishing and stuff. Fanuc has their version of it, and it does really well. But Fanuc's is, I think they call it nano. Basically, their resolution and their surface finishing, they call it like nanometer precision. So it's pretty amazing when you see what the surface finishes look like on it, right? Here's the one that's going to blow your brain. What kind of encoder resolution do you think Fanuc has on their axis motors?
5 decimal places.
Kinda. Let me put it this way. To the best of my knowledge, the Fanuc 32 series control, the highest resolution encoder you're going to get is like 16 million and some change encoder counts per one revolution of the motor. Right?
Wow.
That's I mean, that's insane when you start breaking it out a fraction of a degree. So you figure 16 million encoder counts, 1 degree is going to have something like 500 and some change encoder counts.
Mm-hmm.
Or no. Sorry, I'm wrong on that. It's like 5,000 and some change encoder counts.
Yeah, probably.
It's crazy. So you can subdivide out that 1 degree by 5,000 points in there, right? Mitsubishi, their maximum resolution that I know of on their M800 controls is like 33 million encoder counts.
Jeez.
Fagor, on their highest performing ones just came out with 26-bit encoders, which is like 65 million encoder counts per revolution.
Wow.
Okay. The only reason, like, for all practical purposes, who the hell is going to need that high of resolution to do, standard 3-axis milling, right? But it's not entirely the resolution that gets me excited about that. What gets me excited about it is that the hardware needed to process that signal and to be able to handle that kind of resolution at the speeds that it does, the hardware needed to do that is going to be so high performing that it is going to overall make the machine better in terms of doing your high speed surfacing. The motion is going to be more fluid. It's going to have, your blends are going to be a lot better. So it's pretty sweet that way. Like that's what gets me excited about it. It's not just the sheer high resolution. I mean, I think that's insane that we have the technology to do that, but more so is that it just makes it better for us as machinists when it comes to some of these surfacing techniques and stuff that we use. So like the Mitsubishi controls, I know that they are really popular over in the Asian market because with mold builders, because they can do a lot higher speed finishing, higher resolution encoders, so they're able to get a better surface finish at the end of it. They do really well. And I'm seeing, again, more Mitsubishi controls are showing up in the US market, which really makes me happy to see.
I don't know if you're aware, Morisiki has been using Mitsubishi controls on their lathes for quite a few years now. And this latest version of the NLX, they are moving back to Fanuc on the lathes now.
Really?
And a big component to that is that they are going to 400 volt on their machines. So moving forward, as far as I know, their NHX and their NLX are now 400 volt machines. And that was, Fanuc accommodated that, whereas the Mitsubishi wouldn't.
Yeah, I know Fanuc, on a lot of their servo systems and stuff, they offer what they call their low voltage version, which is the 200 to 300 volts. And then they have their high voltage version, which is 400 plus volts AC. If you don't mind me asking, did Mori say why they were switching over to 400 volts on all of their systems now?
Because they're pushing, I think, I don't remember the exact numbers, but they're pushing their turret motor up to like 12,000 RPM direct
Holy
drive.
crap.
I think it's 20 horse on the turret motor.
Oh my gosh.
And like 55 on the main spindle. So
okay, I can see why they want to move to 400 volt, because
they are
more
pushing
amperage.
some major juice through that thing now.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. But wow, a 12,000 RPM turret motor for live tools,
and their direct drive.
Oh yeah, they've got that motor built right into the turret.
Yeah,
which, I mean, damn, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
They're really pushing the limits on performance, and that just requires more power.
Oh yeah, it does. Man, that's wild. Makes me kind of wish Mitsubishi would go, okay, fine, we're gonna, do this, but
yeah.
Oh well, whatever.
There's probably an aspect of, I mean, they have been using Fanuc on everything else for, at least on the Japanese side of stuff.
Yes.
So they've been using Fanuc for a while. So I'm sure there's an aspect of uniformity.
Yeah, and I could see that. I know that like the MSX controls, the Mitsubishi MSX controls with maps, those have all been built on Mitsubishi.
Yes.
So like the old NH and the NHX machines and the old NL Moris, like those were all Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
But
and
yeah,
I heard,
Mori's
I don't
bounced
know,
back and forth on controls over the years.
Yeah, and I heard, I don't know if there's any validity to it, but with a sales guy, right? The sales guy told us once upon a time when my dad was buying his first.
You know those sales guys.
Oh yeah, when he's buying his first Mori back in the day, apparently there was some kind of dispute between something to do with the robo drill, and Maury was trying to build
Mhm.
that. They called it a mill tap early
Yep.
on. I don't know if you
Yep.
ever heard of those.
Yep.
So I don't know if there was some kind of, hey, you're playing on my turf here,
Yep.
and that led to their transition
Yep.
from Fanuc to
Mitts controls.
Mitsubishi. That's what the
Mhm.
salesman said, anyways.
I think there's a little bit of truth to that because I've heard that as well. I've also heard it was partially a pricing thing
Yeah, I'm sure that had something to do with it as well.
because I mean, really, Siemens and Fanuc have got some of the most expensive control systems on the market. And I think Mori was asking for they wanted a little better pricing on the Fanuc control, and Fanuc went, no,
Yeah,
because okay, you don't want to use us anymore because we're too expensive. Fine. Everybody else is using us. So you go and play and do whatever you're going to do, but you're not getting a better discount.
yeah,
So I imagine there's a couple of factors that led to Mori using the Mitsubishi controls.
yeah. I think you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next one, and this is another one I don't have a lot of input. I've never run one.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, when you hear people that do run them, they love them. Heidenhains.
Yep. I don't have a lot of experience on Heidenhain. That's one I want to get more training on and understand more. They're a Swiss builder, not a German builder. That I made the mistake of thinking that they were a German company, but they're actually a Swiss company.
Interesting.
And what they do, what Heidenhain does, is they actually market themselves as a complete solutions provider when it comes to controls. So they build the control, they build servo drives and servo motors, and they also build feedback systems. So like linear scales, rotary scales, that kind of stuff. The only
Okay.
other the only other control builder that I know that does that is Fagor. Like Fagor and Heidenhain are because Siemens, they build their drives, they build motors, they build their control. But to the best of my knowledge, Siemens does not build a feedback system in terms of like linear scales or rotary scales.
Okay.
They have the encoders on their motors, and I'm not sure if they build those or if they're built for Siemens by somebody else. I don't know for sure on that. But to the best of my knowledge, Heidenhain and Fagor are the only ones that build controls, drives and motors, and the feedback systems.
Hmm.
Um, but the
And
Heidenhains are everybody that I've spoken with that runs them regularly says they're amazingly powerful controls.
yeah, a lot like MAZATROL, they have
Mhm.
pretty committed followers.
Yep. And they have not only do they have really powerful conversational controls, um, but their G&M code processing is good. They've got a super high uh, block processing rate. So like for high speed machining and stuff, they do really, really well with that. And their macro programming is, from what I understand, is very powerful too. Um, if you listen to the Business of Machining podcast with John Saunders and John Grimsmo,
Mm-hmm.
so Grimsmo has a Kern. I
Yeah.
think I can't remember if it's the micro or the micro HD, but he absolutely loves that Heidenhain control. And he's got Fanuc controls in his shop. He's got some other stuff, but he absolutely loves the Heidenhain just because he's been able to write, you know, not only macros and subroutines, but for being able to monitor like tool life and all these different things, he's been able to write little programs and stuff that the Heidenhain control can run those programs, and then it gives him all this data that he wants. And so it's pretty awesome that way.
Have you ever seen a Heidenhain on a lathe of any sort, or a turn mill
um,
environment?
I
I've
haven't
never seen it.
seen it, but I know it's possible. Because Heidenhain, boy, now I'm second guessing myself, but I've looked into a lot of their information, and to the best of my knowledge, the Heidenhain can be used both on mills and lathes. It's just I've mostly seen it on mills. and primarily 5-axis mills.
Yeah, me too. I don't. You're right. I don't know if I've ever seen it on a 3-axis mill.
I think the George Fisher, the GF machines, there's some 3-axis machines that I've seen with a Heidenhain control on it. But they do exist.
Got it. Well, moving on to one that I know you're quite excited about, Fagor. Tell us about Fagor, because I know nothing.
So they're built in Spain. They are just a control builder. And like I said, they do their motors and drives and feedback systems. So like linear scales, rotary scales, that sort of thing. And I've had some experience on it because at the first machine shop I worked in, they had an old Bridgeport torque cut VMC that had been retrofitted with a Fagor control on it. And that's kind of the area, like, it's interesting. Fagor, they do really well in the retrofit space for controls, but then there are more and more European builders that are starting to use that control system. Here in the US, the main machine that you would see that would have a Fagor on it standard is a DMS machine. You know who DMS is, right?
No, I don't.
They're based out of Colorado. They specialize they're kind of a baby blue color machine, but they do more in terms of they're in the composites space,
Okay.
where a lot of their routers and machines are used for machining composites, maybe some aluminum, depending on the configuration of the machine. Architectural foam. I know of a company that does a lot of architectural stuff in North Salt Lake, and they've got a huge DMS machine. And when I say huge, like with the spindle all the way up, I can stand flat-footed and reach my hand up above my head as far as I can go, and I can barely touch the nose of the spindle.
Wow.
So figure it's like 8-9 feet.
Yeah.
Tall, and then I think it's something like 35 or 40 feet in the y-axis, and then close to 60 feet in the x-axis. And that's a full 5-axis head machine. So, but their routers / mills run the Fagor controls exclusively. And I think it was because of the pricing and availability of the control that they used them. But they're once you learn how to navigate them, they're actually a pretty solid machine, or a pretty solid machine control.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people throughout the years that have had experience with them. And actually, the applications engineer with Select, and if you're familiar with Select, they represent a lot of Spanish-built machine tool builders.
Yep.
Like Sorlus and
Ibarmia.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of those guys. And those are awesome machines.
Yeah, they are. They're big. They're big boys.
Big machines.
So it's actually surprising how much stuff is built in Spain. You wouldn't really think of it.
I don't know why, but it seems like the Spanish and the Italians, they don't play too much in what we would almost consider the commodity size machines, like, 40 by 20 and stuff. I mean, I know they have their builders, but they don't mess around with those size machines. They are really into the big equipment, like the big portal mills, gantry mills, great big horizontal boring machines and stuff. It's because I can think of 3 or 4 builders that play with those big machines that we don't mess with them much over here in the US.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, you were talking to the apps engineer with
well,
guys.
he had experience with Fagor, and he had a lot of good things to say about it.
I know the thing that I like about them is that they have really good support in terms of, I got a phone call the other day to go and work on a machine that had been retrofit with a Fagor. And so I went down, looked at it, wasn't quite understanding what I was looking at. And I reached out to the Fagor guys, left them a message, and within like 30 minutes, I had a phone call back and the guy was helping me. And so they're really open about their products.
That's good.
that's another reason why not only do I like Fagor, but that's another reason why I like Mitsubishi, is because I've been able to create accounts on their websites, log in and download technical documentation. Fanuc, on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, you can create an account here, but if you want these technical docs, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Whereas Mitsubishi and Fagor are both like, here you go. Here's all our info.
Do they have stateside support?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they have their main office in Illinois, just outside of Chicago. And then they actually have a California office. And I believe they've got one I can't remember if it's Massachusetts, Connecticut, somewhere on the East Coast. They've got an office out there too, where they do all their support and stuff. Oh, another place that you're going to see Fagor controls a lot is in the think of like an ends Bridgeport, like a knee mill, but where it's a CNC knee mill.
Oh,
A
okay.
lot of Fagors are set up on that too, because they've got a pretty good conversational programming capabilities as well.
Like Track, are they using them, or
Yeah.
do they have their own control?
Track uses their own control.
Okay.
But in that same category of machine, you'll see Fagors a lot.
Okay.
So pretty solid performers that way. One of the other things I like with Fagor is that you don't have to use like their specific motors and drives. Like you can use Yaskawa motors and drives. You can use what the heck is their name? Not Realtek. What's their name? Is it Gemtech? Now I'm having a brain fart, but like for servo motors and drives, they pretty much will play with just about anybody.
That's really handy, especially when it comes to the retrofit or custom built machining industry, which I'm starting to dabble in. Not that I want to build my own machine, but I'm interested in it, and I'm doing a little bit of dabbling and research and just learning about it. So
I've been looking into building my own CNC router and then plasma table, and it's like, man, the Fagor control, like their we'll call it their bottom end control, is cheap enough that it's like I'm really going to consider using that instead of messing around with like Masso or Centroid or
the Mach 3 and 4 controls.
The Mach 3, Mach 4, Linux CNC. Like I'm still interested in learning about those controls, the hobbyist grade controls. But man, the price of the Fagor control is low enough on it that it's like, man, if I wanted to build this and then be able to turn around and sell it, that might not be a bad way to go.
Yeah, interesting.
So anyway.
Next on the list, what about Herco? I know you have experience with Herco. Once again, I don't. Once again, Hercos, it seems like when you run into a shop that's running Hercos and they've committed to Hercos, they stick with them. Yeah, they like them.
And you know what? I can't blame them. Now, like I said earlier, at one time I was trying to sell Hercos, so I might have a slightly biased viewpoint on them. So
well, you said they fired you too, so.
Yeah, they did. and you know what? It is what it is. I get it. It's business decision. I was not selling their machines fast enough out here for their liking. I get it. Doesn't mean there's not still a little sore spot there.
I get it.
Even with having been fired by them, they make a great machine. So Herco, they were started in the late 60s out in Indianapolis. They actually started out making programmable backstops for sheet metal press brakes.
Oh.
That's how they got into the industry. And that was kind of a quote unquote conversational style. And then it eventually just evolved from there to where they started developing NC controls for mills and stuff. And then they eventually got into lathes, and their big selling point is they're conversational. And it's pretty awesome. I think Heidenhain is the only other control. I think maybe Mazak now, but I know for sure that Herco you can import a solid model into their control, and you can program the conversational right to the model in the control.
Can you do surfacing toolpaths and stuff too?
Yes, you
Oh,
can.
wow. That's impressive.
Like it's pretty awesome what they're capable of doing. And now, from what I understand, they are. I don't think I'm saying anything that they haven't come out and said, but they showed uh, a version of their next control. I think it's going to be called the WinMax 6 control at IMTS last year, and it looks quite a bit different than the Max 5 control. But my understanding is that they are integrating an AI algorithm into the control where it learns how you program your parts in there. And then it'll basically learn to where when you put your parts information into the control, it'll already be working on, either I can't remember if they were applying it to the programming side only or if it was also going to be to the actual program execution. So like one of the cool things on their conversational side is you can draw a pocket, right? And then you have different islands that you can draw out in the pocket. But some conversational controls struggle with that, especially when it comes to how to clear that material out of that pocket to where it'll only like step down so far and then it goes and clears it out and then it steps down again and then clears the pocket out. Whereas the Herco control has the capability to do like in Fusion, they call it adaptive clearing. I forget what like feature cam and master cam call it, but it'll actually go in, do a helical plunge down in, and then it'll start doing tricoidal milling to clear the pocket out, high speed machining. And it's all built in on the control, which is
Dang,
cool
that's nice.
as hell.
Yeah. I'd like to get to play on one at some point. I've always liked, I don't know if you sacrifice some of your rigidity, but they have that 5-axis mill where the
head tilts.
Yeah, the head tilts, and then
yeah,
I guess that'd be just a C axis because it rotates around the Z. So yeah, your C axis is just on the table. It always looked like such a nice platform to me because you had table that you can mount a secondary vise to right next to it. So you could do, your one op and then finish the backside of it in a vise right next to it.
If you want to see that machine really rock and roll, Kenny Urban on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I was just talking to him the other day. Patriot Machinist. Yep.
Oh yeah, that dude. He had one on there that was a whole series of videos, but it's this big titanium chunk, and then he's coming in with like a 3/4 inch diameter Imugi Franken, end mill and reaching and doing this, and he's running it on that SRT machine, which is the tilting head, and then it's got the table.
He's got one of those.
And that one, I will say that is probably one of the best advertisements for that machine because it is rigid enough that it's handling that titanium like a champ.
And he told me he's been doing some harder materials lately. So
yep. Crazy part, there's only 2 other builders that I know of that build machines like that are built that rigid. And one is DMG Mori, and the other one is Sigma, which is an Italian builder that's owned by FFG. They're the only other 2 builders that I know that have that rotating head design with the table, with the rotary built into the table as well.
Okay.
And then they use the direct drive torque motors. So it's not like a worm gear setup. It's a direct drive motor. So high accuracy, high speed, and they've got a lot of braking rigidity in there as well. So pretty excellent machines.
I remember the first time I saw one at IMTS when I went with my dad years ago. And I was like, that's cool. I like that. It's a good idea.
I know I sound like a Herco fanboy, and part of it is not because of the sales side of it, but just because when I saw how they built their machines, I mean, a lot of their machines are built over in Taiwan, and they bring them into the US and they do a lot of final assembly and inspection here. And it's awesome. But like 99% of their engineering and research and stuff is done in Indianapolis. Like they've got a research lab at their headquarters where they're messing with, the new control design. They're messing with mechanical designs of the machines. They're all of their software guys are in Indianapolis.
Hmm.
And so they really are taking a lot of it to heart. And then just before they fired me, I had heard through the grapevine that they are working to try and bring more of their machine manufacturing, or bring some of it back into the U.S. I can't remember if it was for the smaller machines or the bigger machines, but they're trying to bring back their machine building from start to finish here in the U.S., which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
One other thing, I know we're kind of getting long here, but the Herco control, something else that's pretty awesome. We've talked a little bit about like high speed machining and look ahead and stuff on other brands. Hercos, they call it their dynamic look ahead, but apparently that control can look ahead from like 10,000 block look ahead to up to, I think it was 30,000 blocks look ahead.
Wow.
So I don't know how fast it executes the blocks. They didn't really talk about that, but they tell what the look ahead is. And that goes into their proprietary algorithm called Ultimotion, which it's kind of the for lack of a better descriptor of it, is their plot path software or algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it optimizes, it tries to create the shortest path to the points that it sees in the program. And so I can't describe it much better than that because I don't fully understand it. But I've seen two identical machines side by side running the exact same tooling, exact same program, but one has their Ultimotion control, or motion planner turned on, and one turned off. And the one with the Ultimotion turned on, it's smoother. The movements are smoother, and it cut out like 22% out of the cycle time on that part.
Wow.
I can't say that it's going to cut out that much completely out of all programs, but it does execute programs faster, like finishing the parts and running the parts and stuff faster with that turned on.
And so how about if you're not doing the conversational? Do they have good support for posts and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Herco put out a video a few months ago about their control running just standard G&M code.
Mm-hmm.
And it kicks butt. It chews through G&M code amazingly well. And what I was saying about taking it with a grain of salt is that video was put out by Herco. And so, a lot of companies like to toot their own horns and whatever. So, and everybody knows that. But I've actually talked to like Mastercam guys that have run it, and they've been impressed with how well it processes the G&M code. Because that Ultimotion stuff isn't just for their conversational. It'll also apply all that to a standard G&M code program as well.
And what are they using for servos and drives and all that?
They use almost exclusively Yaskawa servo motors and drives.
Oh, okay.
I say almost exclusively because a lot of their turning centers, especially their Y-axis subspindle lathes, those are running Rexroth motors and drives, but their mills are running Yaskawa across the board. And so they've got high resolution encoders. They've got, and they size I think I would say they even oversize the servo motors just a little bit for what they're doing. Because like the VMX series Hercos, their rapid rates on a little 3-axis mill, you're looking at like 1,800 to 2,000 inches a minute. Like, it is a fast little machine.
Wow. And I know you brought up to me in another conversation that
Mhm.
Herco has Miltronics now under their.
Yes. Yeah. So a few years ago, Herco ended up buying, um, the opportunity came up for them and they actually bought Miltronics. And they also, in that same acquisition, ended up picking up a company called Takumi, which is a Taiwanese machine builder. So yeah, Miltronics and Herco are sister companies.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, and Miltronics is another one that's got conversational and they're solid little machines.
Are
Like
the
they
controls
perform well.
the same as Herco now,
No,
or
no,
they're still their own kind of?
they are still their own control. Herco has a whole software team or a whole engineering group for the Miltronics controls.
Okay.
I suspect they originally bought Miltronics with the idea of take whatever is usable technology that Miltronics has and then, like shut it down because it's competition. But I think when they looked at it and looked at how many Miltronics users there were out there in the United States, I think they realized that, hey, with the right engineering team behind it and with a little bit of investment, we could really turn Miltronics into a powerhouse of for small shops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a solid machine. I mean, I'll give Miltronics credit where credit is due. They build a solid little machine.
Speaking of running off a standard computer, we almost forgot to mention Tormach.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's one I should have thought to bring up. But yeah, they run off a regular uh like a regular almost industrialized computer. So like you've got the Herco and some of the others that are using Windows as kind of a platform for their stuff. Tormach, they're running their software is called PathPilot, and it's actually a branch of the Linux CNC software. So my understanding of the history, forgive me, I'm not super familiar with Tormachs, but I'm seeing more and more of them, especially in shops that are just starting out. But with the Tormach, they started out building kind of hobby grade machines, and they used Linux CNC, and then they kind of took that and decided they wanted to really lean into building machines and control and stuff. And so they took the Linux CNC stuff and branched off and built their software called PathPilot on top of it. And they really seem to be leaning into starting to build more industrial grade machines.
What do you know about the Linux CNC? I don't know anything about it.
So the little bit of history that I know about Linux CNC, and the only reason I know this is because I was actually looking at designing a control retrofit or building like CNC routers and stuff using it, is that it's not only like a G code interpreter, but it's also, so last time I looked, it's built on top of Ubuntu Linux, so it can run on standard computer hardware. And there's a couple of companies that make um, hardware that'll plug into like your PCIe ports on your motherboard that give you like relay inputs and outputs and different things like that, which is pretty cool. Um, but with that Linux CNC, it's built on top of Ubuntu, and then they have a motion controller part of the software. They have basically a programmable machine control, a PMC uh, software built in, and then they have the G code interpreter that talks to those other two things. So when you start running it, like you build the logic for like your tool changer, you build your logic for like your home switches or limit switches or whatever in there. You've got the way to interface the sensors and hardware and everything into the machine, and then it is able to take the G code, interpret what the different G and M codes are telling the machine to do, and
Hmm.
then able to plot the path and it'll run everything from like just regular stepper motors and drives up to, I think now you can interface them with the ClearPath servo motors. And so it'll plan and do move everything according to uh, where you're supposed to go or where it's supposed to go and different things. So it's pretty neat. I'm thinking I actually am going to probably build a little CNC router or something and use that and just kind of mess around with it. So I'm more familiar with Linux CNC.
Yeah. They're making pushes. And like you said, they definitely started out super hobby grade, and they've pretty wisely made their machines so you can buy a base model machine and slowly upgrade it. You can buy a tool changer, you can buy an enclosure. And now they've moved in, they have these MX series machines.
Yep.
And they have servo motors, from what I understand, as opposed to the stepper motors.
They're running clear path servo motors. And so they've got like 500 or 700 inch a minute rapids. The base casting on these MX machines is epoxy granite, which is the same kind of material that they use for that Hardinge uses for their super precision lathes. It's the same stuff that like what's their name?
Well, Kern, I know, like Kern and Sharon,
and
really
Sharon.
high-end machines use epoxy.
The Hermela, that was the word I was looking for. Hermela, their 5-axis machines are built on an epoxy granite foundation.
Really?
Uh-huh. And so, and I mean, I understand why Tormach does it, because it's a lot easier to iterate and change the designs and different things when you're the one in control of it, instead of having to send out, have patterns made, have castings, made at a foundry or whatever. This way, they could essentially weld up the design of the base that they want, fill it with the epoxy granite, and run with it.
Yeah, I see a lot of machines going that direction, to be honest. It just seems more, well, it's definitely got to be more thermally stable.
It is. It's thermally stable, and it's got far better vibration dampening characteristics than cast iron does.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, a lot of benefits to that type of design.
Yep. And like looking at their website, the 1500 MX, I mean, it's sitting on 3 feet. It's sitting on a 3-point base. And that's what big companies like Makino does with their big horizontals, is it's a 3-point base.
Mm-hmm.
And so that the casting's got to be pretty rigid to be able to hold tolerance and only sit on the 3 feet. And I mean, they're even offering stuff like through spindle coolant ready and whatever on this machine. And
yeah, tool setters, spindle probes. And that's the big challenge these days, because you see a lot of people, just go buy some used machine. And sometimes, if you're buying some 20-plus-year-old Haas or an old Fadal, you're not going to get spindle probes and tool setters. And yeah, you might get a machine that's a little more rigid and can take heavier cuts, but you could get better speeds and make faster cuts with some of these linear guideway machines that have a little bit faster RPM on the spindles and whatnot.
Actually, sorry, I'm going to throw this out there, not trying to advertise Tormach or whatever, but like some of the specs that they're listing here. So yeah, it's got a 10,000 RPM spindle and it's only 4 horsepower. So, I mean, but that's not surprising, but they're advertising 1200 inch a minute rapids and 600 inch a minute rapids on Z. And it's saying rapid and cut at up to 1200 inches a minute. It's got servo motors with absolute encoders, so battery backups like what the Fanucs do, but it's saying a 23-bit encoder. And most guys don't know what a 23-bit encoder means, but that's take 2 and raise it to the 23rd power, and it ends up coming out to be like 8 million encoder counts per revolution.
Oh, yeah.
So really high resolution servo motors.
And they're single phase. So
yeah, it runs on single phase power, and it's a 20 by 14 X and Y travel. So, I mean, if somebody was wanting to start up a little shop, and this is like a $30,000, $32,000 machine, I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah. Wrapping up, any other honorable mentions you'd like to bring up?
I know I mentioned like Centroid and Masso, and you said something about Mach 3, and I mean, I know that there's a couple of industrial machines that are using centroids. They're just not as common here in the US, at least in terms of like full-fledged machines.
Yes.
Or not full-fledged machines. Wow, that sounds really stupid. No, on industrial machines, you don't see them nearly as much,
Yeah.
especially out here in Utah. But I
And
know
those
of a
are all
couple.
mainly kind of hobbyist type.
That, yeah, the Centroid, they're really big in the retrofit space. Like I
Yes.
know of a couple of shops that run a lot of retrofitted older machines that are running Centroids, and they love them. But they also offer Centroid also offers stuff that's more geared toward a hobbyist level control and machine too, which is pretty awesome. I haven't messed too much with Masso. I've messed with Mach 3 a little bit, and for hobby machines, they seem to be pretty decent little control systems that you can run on a like off of a standard computer. So pretty
Yeah,
slick that way. Definitely a lot of fun to learn how to mess with and integrate. And if I'd encourage everybody to try and do a little CNC router, or just something to mess with and have some fun with if they're interested in any of it.
or at a minimum, just check out somebody's YouTube page that sits and
Yes.
builds them, because I think I don't have any interest in ever building one of my own, but it is fun to watch these guys that are. There's a guy here in town he takes Harbor Freight lathes.
Oh yeah, yep.
I was just chatting with him the other day. He takes Harbor Freight lathes and puts ball screws on them and turns them into CNC lathes using the Mach 3 and 4 software.
Which in my mind, it's like, why would you do that? Why would you waste the money? But then again, it's not really wasting money, because the guy's learning how to make these little cheap Chinese lathes, and not only is he learning about the control side of it, but I mean, you've obviously got to do some work mechanically to be able to make them work. Mm-hmm. And so he's learning all about that stuff, which is just awesome.
Yeah, really cool stuff. So, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thanks for joining us again, Will.
Appreciate thanks for having me, Matt. Thanks for listening to my pontifications about machines and stuff.
We are dorks. We pontificate a little too much about these things. And oftentimes we'll get on phone calls and we'll start talking. I'm like, man, we should really just have a podcast episode about this. So some of what we talked about today is just rehashed old conversations.
Hey, I'm glad I can, cause those juices to flow and get you to go, hey, you know what? I can use this for a podcast idea.
I enjoy it. So go ahead and give out your contact again.
If you ever want to get hold of me about machine service, or if you just want to have a good conversation with me about something machine related or even not machine related, you can catch me. You can get my phone. My phone number is 435-274-8998. And if you want to email me, easiest way to do that is service@greenlightmachinery.com.
Well, thanks for joining us again. And until next time, thank you for joining the Machine Tool Maniacs podcast.